Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I'm making for Jacob of a track from an act named La Dispute or LA Dispute titled I See Everything. And if we switch over to here, we have the track on YouTube and I've reviewed tracks from La Dispute before. Sometimes it can be pretty intense. From what I understand, this is going to be similar to one of those rides. We're going to listen through it from start till finish and hear what we think. Let's go. Oh, I love the tightness of those guitars and drums immediately. Fantastic effort so far. I love the unison between the vocals and the way they follow the groove of the rest of the instruments. Great chemistry there. I mean, I love the storytelling. La Dispute, they're phenomenal at it. You know, you just get overwhelmed and invested in their world. And the other band members, they play music that alludes to the emotional content of the story, but it doesn't open it up too much. It doesn't make it too obvious. You're still left wondering what's going to happen next. It's still hard to see Simpson, that scarecrow frame. Like, that's the heavy stuff, man. It's so vivid. You get that. Oh. Making comparisons to God abandoning him, like... I just can't even fathom this. It's just, I've never had a band tell a story like this before from a journal perspective. It's so unique. I'm blown away by this. It's just the voice, the vocal fry there. It communicates so many different emotions so elegantly and so maturely and so appropriately. The pain. Fantastic work bringing it down as well here with the vocals, the energy, the rest of the band following him dynamically. A brief moment of respite there amongst just the turmoil. Loss of a child to the torture of cancer. Help me. 'Cause I can only imagine how you recovered, kept your faith and held the brightness of life inside the smile of a child who had to bear it. And I will your steadfast faith. No, I will never forget you. Now 6 or 7 years later, I'm devoid of all faith. I am empty of comfort and I am weary of waiting. Though I felt nowhere what you had, I see nothing Damn, my eyes are closed. So I think this track, I See Everything, I think I'm kind of blown away by that. Because this is the conclusion of my review of the song by LA Dispute. I See Everything. This track, I think, is about the story, the diary entries of a family coping with the youngest son's suffering and then eventual death due to cancer and having to bury him, and coming to terms with their belief in God and everything like that, and trying to find a reason for everything and faith and strength to get through it. And I think this is comparing journal entry or the diary entry to maybe the singer's perspective later on, with how he's closed his eyes and everything like that because he can't see it. Even though he knows how much more the boy has suffered, he can't take the suffering that he has, and how it's incomparable to be able to sort of communicate those two things. I think it's an incredibly tense, emotional story there that I think I'm going to be thinking about for the rest of the day. I don't think it's quite enough time within the space of a music review for me to fully able to appreciate and sort of like I suppose stomach it or digest it. It's incredibly well told. The lyrics are vivid. You know, again, you hear about the skeletal frame and playing even though the spirits are high but the blood counts aren't, and then just having to bury it after Christmas, you know, just time goes so quickly and then just boom, they're gone. And it's like the kid having the ability, knowing that like there's people suffering more than him. It's just so it displays this amazing, incredible complexity that life actually is. Nothing's black or white, it's grey, and it's been a pleasure to review it, but I feel humbled by it. It reminds you to appreciate life and not to take it for granted. And it also reminds us that we are imperfect. We can't always quantify our pain or suffering to others, you know. Someone always has it worse. And sometimes we can feel guilty because we're not able to take it as well as them, even if everyone's different and everyone's got different sort of abilities. And, you know, I mean, the vocals were absolutely astonishing. I loved the way that we talked in that sort of hardcore kind of, that really intense vocal fry, and just the pain and angst and frustration and all those negative emotions were displayed there. Even if there were some positive parts of the diary where they showed gratitude for good things happening, it was so emotionally responsible from the singer, the vocalist. Great technique. Elaborated and communicated very well with the audience. Got absolutely no complaints about it whatsoever from like a performance perspective. We did sing some melodies that were in tune with the rest of the instruments and worked well within the harmonies that were present on those guitar parts and everything else. And I like the minimalism of the arrangement because it allowed the vocals to stand out even more, even when you had guitars in a similar frequency range. I liked when the vocalist also came down in terms of their energy and perceived loudness and everything for that end part, where we sort of like how sort of maybe screwed we were with our eyes closed and everything like that, how we were struggling. We understood how to balance it out, and we talked about our faith and everything like that. We had a moment of humility there. We were humble. We learned where we were and what we are, and it gave us more of a sort of insight into our perspective, you know. I think that was a beautiful thing, and I liked how the rest of the instruments, I think the instruments came down with him, and that was very appropriate in terms of their loudness and everything like that and their intensity. It was a phenomenal chemistry between the band members there. And while, you know, there was beauty in the overall theme, there was a lot of tension with those distorted chords and everything, and the drum work and the bass there. There was some nice sort of choices there with the extensions of the harmonies and some interesting sort of slidey kind of melodic bits interspersed, but it was very sort of tragic. It told a tale of woe. Even when we went down and we had some quieter sort of bits there, we had some sort of less kind of noise and more space in the arrangement of the performance in the mix. It was still somber and sad and it was kind of awful in a way not to listen to. I enjoyed listening to this track. I mean, like, I appreciated it. I didn't like hearing about a kid dying from cancer, don't get me wrong. It's just, I can appreciate the musicianship on display here. I mean, at 3 minutes 39, it was through composed and was compelling from start till finish. There's absolutely no filler bits, no weak points there. There was a fantastic tightness, again, as I mentioned several times for the band members. The instrumental performances and the guitar, bass, drums were absolutely on point. You could tell they were paying attention to each other. They had a fantastic unison sense of unity to their grooves that they played. And even if some of them sort of walked in their own direction for a little bit, they kind of came back to each other and met as if they were trying to find a safe place on stage. I think that's a beautiful thing, especially when discussing such really intense subject matter. You know, you can't have too much sort of wild stuff going on in the actual composition, because otherwise it just becomes a little bit too chaotic. I think they displayed, I think it's part of why I appreciate it. Didn't have any sort of like crazy instrumental solos or anything like that. They didn't need to in this. You were hearing a story from start till finish, and that's something that LA Live Dispute do incredibly well. And I think, again, like before we move on to sort of another part of the conclusion, I just want to say that the complexity of the main motif there, with those interesting notes and extensions and some sus parts as well, and some sort of flat seconds occasionally, was great, because it illustrated the tonal complexity of the story, but also the music accompanying it. It's not a simple situation to figure out. Again, it's not just black or white, it's grey. There's a lot of nuance to it, and I think that's a very mature way of approaching this subject matter. There's a million and one ways to sound insincere when you write music about stuff like this, and LA Dispute completely avoided it. The production, recording, mixing, and mastering was scintillating. I really enjoyed listening to the quality of the vocals. The vocal performance was great, recorded really well. It was a very raw performance, very little filtering or production work on that, you know, which was appropriate because the guy just had great pipes, you know. He was a fantastic singer, tremendous technique, and I think that if you'd added more to it, it would have sort of discolored it. It would have made it tasteless, you know, and distasteful. The guitar, bass, and drums sounded nice and tight. A little bit of sort of noise and kind of grittiness to those driven tones there that were filtered nicely. Great, nice, tight mix there, nice and wide in the stereo field. And, you know, ultimately, everything had a place and a home. You could hear all the different elements easily. I don't think I needed the lyric video to be able to understand what the song was about, but I'm still grateful nonetheless that we had it, so that I could read it as we went along and got the perspective of the different people involved. It's just a really wild line, and it was nice and loud without pumping, but I also liked there was dynamic range there when we went down at the end. For that quieter, more somber bit where we talked about our eyes being closed. It sounded like a live recording. They'd be just as good live as they are in the studio. I've got no doubt about that whatsoever. They're a fantastic band, and I'm very thankful as part of the custom multi-music review for Jacob choosing this song, because this is my review of LA Dispute or LA Dispute's I See Everything. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go check out their various social medias and their YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next CC's Patrons video. Spiderhands Out.